So let's now take a look at costs in the short run. Okay. So again, in the short run, you have at least one input that is fixed, and we assume it to be capital. So we're going to go through and we're going to start to define some terms. The first one is total cost. The total cost, or just TC, and you're going to be seeing these terms a lot. The total cost is the total cost of all resources used in production of goods and services. So it's everything that it costs to put that output out there. Okay. So let's look at an example here. So we're going to say that capital is fixed at 3, because again, we're the short run. The price of capital is 10. The price of labor, which we call the wage or W, is also 10. So let's go through, and when we go through this, we look at different levels of labor, and based on that labor, we get output. Okay, this is just given. So if we go through and calculate the marginal product of labor, right? So when we go from 0 labor to 1, output goes from 0 to 50, and so it goes up by 50. When we go from 1 to 2, output goes up from 50 to 90, so it goes up by 40. And then 30, 20, and 10. All right, so now the cost of capital. That's just going to be the total amount that we're spending on this capital import. So we have capital level of 3 times $10. And so for each unit of capital, it's going to cost $10. So when we produce 0 units, it's 30. 3, 30, and so forth. Cost of labor is the amount of labor we have times the price of it. And so the cost of labor is going to be the units of labor times the price of it, the wage, which is 10. Okay. So now the total cost, TC, that is the total cost of production. It's for any level of output, how much is it going to cost you? Now you notice here that when we look at this, we're over the graph here, which is going to come up, it talks about the total cost in terms of output, not in terms of labor. Because as a business, we don't care about how much it costs to employ someone. We care about how much it costs to produce a good. Now the cost to employ someone has worked in that, but we care about that end result. And so the total cost is going to equal the total cost to produce different units. So when we produce 0 units, our cost of capital is 30, cost of labor is 0. It's going to look like that. When we produce 50 units, it's going to cost 30 for capital, 30 for labor, 40. And it's going to look like that. So this is what our total cost looks like. Okay. So let's go back here. So going further with total cost, our total cost is made up of 2 broad types of costs, our variable cost and our fixed cost. Now, our variable cost is costs that change depending on how much we produce. So it varies with production, variable cost. So because of that, when we produce nothing, when we produce 0 units, we have no variable cost. Now your fixed costs, these are costs that are going to be unchanged depending on how much you produce. So if you produce 0 units or 1 million, your fixed cost is what it sounds like, it's fixed. Okay? So let's look at an example here. Okay. So when we look at that, if we, where's that? Okay. So what that's going to look like is, let's first look at our fixed costs. So again, our fixed cost, no matter how much we produce, that fixed cost is going to be unchanged. So what you're going to see then is going to be a line, and here's our fixed cost, that is going to be horizontal. No matter how much you produce, that fixed cost level doesn't change. Our variable costs, on the other hand, will change. And so when we put that in there, it's going to look like this. So again, when you produce nothing, your variable cost is going to be 0. The more you produce, the higher your variable cost is going to be. And so here's our variable cost. Now, your total cost. Again, your total cost is the sum of your variable cost and your fixed cost. So at any level of output, that total cost is going to be whatever the variable cost is plus the fixed. Now, it's going to be parallel in that case with the variable cost, and it's going to start. Doesn't exactly look parallel. Maybe I drew this a little bit wrong, but one of that. Okay. So that's going to be your total cost. So your total cost is going to equal your fixed cost when you don't produce anything, when quantity is 0. But then it's going to increase at the same rate as your variable cost. Now, the other thing that I want to note here, going back, is that you see the total cost goes up at basically a faster pace the more you produce. All right, so let's go up here. You can see that initially, to produce 50 units, or let's put this, so that $10 increase in your total cost got you 50 more units initially. But then that $10 only got you 40, and then 30, and then 20. So basically you see the costs are going up at a faster pace the more you produce. And the reason for that is the decreasing marginal product of labor. So if you're paying the labor the same amount, okay, your labor the same amount, but you're getting less and less additional output out of each additional unit, what you're seeing is that the average is going to be getting larger and larger. And so it's going to rise at a faster pace. So those are the total costs.